This update is controversial, and I'm here for it. Today, we're going to be going over the patch notes in depth, talking about all the changes that were made, all the balancing that happened, the buffs, nerfs, the ins and outs. As you can see, I have about 160 hours of playtime on MultiVersus so far. The game's been out for a month. The 1 month anniversary of the game being released was like yesterday. I've played the game a lot. I'm going to try to get through these patch notes as quickly as I can while also like actually explaining things instead of just reading you the stats, because you can go read them yourself. I'm going to be explaining them. But I'm going to brush over the irrelevant stuff like, oh, we made Rain Dog attack 1% fast. Who cares? We're only going to be going over the stuff that's actually relevant and will like actually be felt in game. But let's dive in, starting with the Hurtbox update. I'm making a full video talking about this, but basically, I mean, just look at this difference. This is insane. This is what the hitboxes were before the update, and this is now what the hitboxes are. This is just infinitely better, and the game is going to feel so much better. As a base, if this was the only thing in this update, I would still be happy with the update. The hitboxes are finally fixed. Now, projectile systems update, this one is actually really, really big. This is another huge thing that they've done. If you guys didn't know, projectile meta was extremely strong. All the best characters had, you know, abusive projectiles. Everybody was complaining about projectiles. Essentially now, if two projectiles are coming at each other, they will clink, which destroys both projectiles in the air. So if one person shoots this gun and one person shoots this gun, they'll both just blow up on each other. But now there's a new class of projectiles called heavy projectiles. Heavy projectiles will break through the other projectile and then continue through and cannot be reflected. So if two light projectiles hit each other, they clink. And if one heavy projectile and one light projectile are coming, the heavy will break the light one and then keep going. So this will actually make certain projectiles just physically better than other projectiles. This should help with some of the more like spammy projectiles that aren't necessarily like heavy hitting, but they're just super spammy, because now you can just break them with your own. And this will also help that if you're playing somebody that has heavy projectiles, like Jerry, for example, you can shoot it through other people's projectiles. Used to be if you would throw a Jerry and it got hit in midair, it would just die, but now it can pass through other projectiles. So it's pretty cool. I'm curious to see how that plays out. There's some keyboard like indirect buffs because now that the directional actions are better for mapping. So it should be easier to do like certain binds that don't clash with other things. For example, like you used to not be able to do a down attack if you were fast falling. Just better key mapping basically. So I'll Take That was one of the meta perks. I was running this on Morty and Arya. Basically, every time you would dodge an attack, it gave you 0.5 seconds back on your ability cooldown. They've nerfed that from 0.5 seconds to 0.25 seconds, so they've halved it. I still think I'm going to be using this perk because it's just so good if you're playing like a dodgy character like Morty or Arya that has a bunch of cooldowns. The projectile speed buff for Make It Rain Dog has been halved. This is also pretty incredible because it just makes the projectile meta even more obsolete now because projectiles are going to be 10% slower. And here's the spicy stuff because now we got the buffs and nerfs. Arya, this is interesting. So the assassin passive has been removed across the board, which is something that I was personally an advocate for. I thought it was stupid that assassins took more damage because they didn't get any buffs in exchange for that. I would have understood if it was like assassins are 10% faster but take 10% more damage, but no, it was just a damage. So that's removed now, which is great. I'm glad with that. This sucks. Arya was interesting. I personally wanted her to be reworked. I think a lot of people were misunderstanding me in my last video when I said that she needed a buff. I don't think her up special needed a buff. I thought the other parts of her kit needed a buff so that it wasn't just up special. Arya felt like she was so heavy on just up special and had like no other viable moves really. Like yes, there were combos that you could do, but all of them involved the up special. So I wanted them to slightly nerf the up special and then buff everything else up, but they didn't. They reverted it to the early access version, which if you guys remember is the one that doesn't physically work. This is the up slash where after using it, instead of dashing to the person, like 50% of the time you'll just dash to the side or you'll dash too low or it won't dash at all or the person gets thrown too far, so you can't ever follow it up. This was terrible. There was nobody that liked this version. When they fixed it and made it 100% consistent, that was a little bit overpowered, but it wasn't overpowered because the move was functioning as intended. It was overpowered because the move itself in theory was overpowered. If they had just removed something about that ability or reworked that ability instead of reverting it to the early access version that had a bug that made it not work correctly, then it would have been fine. So they've kind of ruined Arya again. I doubt we'll see much Arya because it doesn't matter how good you are with Arya. Her best move is now just inconsistent and doesn't connect. Batman, this is another interesting one. Batman was ridiculously, obscenely broken. Here's the poll results if you guys were curious. This isn't just my opinion. I have over 3,000 responses on this, and the vast majority of them is either a 4 or a 5, which is overpowered and too good. So, you know, it's not just me. You don't have to take my word for it. Batman was overpowered. Batman's battering is not a heavy projectile, which means that other projectiles will clank with it if they hit it in midair. So you can basically use any other projectile in the game now, and if it collides with Batman's battering, it'll break it. But they didn't nerf his ridiculous movement speed and ridiculous attack speed. I know some people are like, oh, but canonically in the movies, Batman is super fast and an assassin. Okay, but he's fighting a cartoon bunny. We're not going for like canonical accuracy here. We're going for game balance. So he now dodges all projectiles with sidestep, and there was like a bug fix where his first jab would be delayed going into the second one. So I guess these aren't necessarily buffs, but it will make Batman better. It will make his combos more oppressive and make him more consistently get you in those combos. So I'm disappointed with this change personally. I was really hoping that they would like gut Batman. It just doesn't make sense to me how a character is so overpowered and then they go ahead and make him better. Bugs Bunny got so many changes. I have to zoom out to see all of them. And I'm so happy about this. I'm so ecstatic about Bugs receiving all of these nerfs. For reference, here's the poll again. 62% of people said overpowered, and then the other 30 said nobody thinks Bugs is bad. If you're sitting here telling me Bugs is hard to use and underpowered, you are physically wrong. His rocket, by the way, is a heavy projectile, so it won't be clanking with anything. It'll pass through, which is fine. I agree with that. It has armor break now, which is kind of interesting. So if anybody, like if a Superman is using an up punch and he's charging up his armor, it'll break it. So that's amazing. I like that this rocket should be like a heavy, like hard hitting projectile that goes through anything. That's what it should be. The safe is also a heavy projectile, which again, I agree with that. The safe shouldn't be on the same level as like Morty's gun. And then here are all of the nerfs. So the hitbox active frames were reduced on his up air, which just means that basically when he uses his up air, there's a shorter period of time where it's physically dealing out damage. So like, I'm going to make up a number. I have no idea if this is accurate, but let's say when he was using his up slash before, there was a period of like 0.3 seconds where if you were in his hitbox within that 0.3 second window, it would hit you. And now that window is 0.2 seconds instead. The recovery land cancel window delayed 3 frames on his air side attack. The frame window to cancel into another ground neutral attack was delayed on his ground neutral attack, which just makes it a little bit less spammy. His weight was lowered to 50 from 55, which is amazing. Bugs shouldn't have been as heavy as he was. In my opinion, Bugs should be one of the lighter characters since number 1, he's a mage. So if we're going for like the class system, he shouldn't be heavy. Number 2, he is a super heavy hitting character. So like all of his attacks, like he can drop a safe and shoot a bazooka rocket. So this is good. I like that change. And the hitbox active duration reduced to 0.25 seconds from 0.5 seconds on coming through doc, which was a signature perk. So this isn't going to do like too much, but it is a pretty significant nerf. Finn has increased starting gold to 200 from 100. Not that big a deal. Adjusted the vacuuming on the hitbox of his up hit, which is the bag spin. Vacuuming, if you don't know, is a mechanic where basically if you use that move near them, they'll kind of get like sucked into the move. And then just kind of a quality of life change to his ground down attack. Harley is interesting because I don't agree with this one. So the assassin passive removed, good, like that. But they've increased her movement speed, which is also good. I like that. I've said before that Harley should be one of the fastest characters in the game. I like this change a lot, but it should have come with nerfs. They should have buffed the movement speed and removed the passive, but then like nerfed the hammer and nerfed her up slash or something. But they didn't. They just buffed her. This is sort of similar to the Batman one, except Batman at least had an indirect nerf. Harley just got better. Iron Giant just keeps getting hit with nerfs, and I don't really understand it. I still don't think he's OP. I haven't thought he's OP since the game came out. Maybe he's better in 2v2s. I don't play much 2v2s. I like primarily play 1v1s. So if you guys are 2v2 players, let me know down below in the comments if he's like mad OP in 2v2s. I could be wrong. I think I have like 100 matches played in 2v2s, and I have like 1,000 in 1v1s. So most of my opinions are coming from a 1v1 perspective. Jake receiving nerfs. Awesome. Jake was really good. I still do. This is an unpopular opinion. I understand that. People aren't going to agree with me, but I still do think that Jake does take like some skill to play. He's not a super easy character, but he was too strong, and I'm glad he's getting nerfs. When he uses his down special, which is when he like turns into the house, it can't hit them for an infinite amount of time. You can only stay in that mode for like 3 seconds. So if you're bouncing up and down, you're going to run out of your damage window. Longer whiff recovery, 6 frames is actually pretty significant. So I like this a lot. This is one where you charge up the punch. So if you whiff that, you're going to have a longer period of time where you're stuck in place. And then his skateboard does less damage on the first 2 attacks. I think it's like 50%. So the first 2 hits are essentially the same damage now as 1 hit before this update. LeBron receiving a lot of buffs. This is dope. I love this. LeBron was super weak. We're not going to talk about it because I don't think this is going to push him into the meta or anything, but LeBron will be much better. Lots of Morty buffs. Love this as well. We're going to ignore the bug fixes. You can read them if you want, but these are things that like are self-explanatory that should already be in the game, so they're just fixing them. Basically, his attack is going to combo more reliably. He's going to more consistently hit projectiles. His portal aim reticle. This is a pretty good one. I like this a lot. When you would aim your portal before, it would show the opponent that dot of where you're aiming to teleport, and now only you can see that. And then some 2v2 buffs. His grenade passive for his allies has been enabled. This is nice. I like this a lot. I don't think Morty needed like incredible buffs. I just think he needed like some slight buffs. I still think he needs a kill hit. Right now, his only kill move is his down smash. So I'm surprised they didn't change anything here. I guess you could say that his ground side attack is going to connect more reliably for the full combo. So I guess you're going to be hitting your hammer more often, but they can dodge out between the second attack and the hammer. So I still don't think that's like some significant buff. Shaggy receiving very significant nerfs, which I am a huge fan of. His super sandwich is a heavy projectile. Agreed. That's fine. Armor removed, which is wonderful. He should never have had armor in the first place. Shaggy is not a character that should have armor. This is awesome. They lowered the weight from 76 to 68, which is a huge nerf. He's going to be getting KO'd much more easily now, which is also amazing. He's literally just a human. There's no reason that he should have been as tanky as he was. And then this is the thing where he basically had like an infinite combo where you could like stomp him over and over. They've removed that. Awesome. Love that. Steven got a nerf, which is really ridiculous. He should be getting a bunch of buffs. Superman getting nerfs. The only one that's like super significant is that he has an ammo cooldown on his laser eyes. He gets 2 laser eye ammo, and then when he uses them, it comes back every 8 seconds. This is great. It means they can't just jump up in the air and spam their lasers over and over. And then basically he can't hit behind him anymore, which is, you know, that always should have been a thing. Taz received a lot of buffs. I actually like this a lot. I think this will slot him into like B tier or something, but if you want to read up on Taz, you can. I just don't think that he's too relevant in the meta right now. Tom and Jerry nerfs and buffs. This is interesting. His split dynamites can no longer bounce off the ground. They blow up when they hit the ground. That's fine. I don't really care about that. Jerry is a heavy projectile. Awesome. He gets 1 less ammo on his attacks. So when Jerry's on the ground, he can shoot the wine bottle. He's going to get 1 less shot. Added 3 frames of whiff recovery, added 3 frames of whiff recovery. And then his hitbox was moved 2 frames later to like accurately match the animation. This is great. I don't think Tom and Jerry needed some huge nerfs. I really think that Jerry is the one that needed the nerfs more than like Tom's attacks. So I think it's fine. It's not crazy. It's not going to push him out of S tier, but it's something. Velma got a cool change where instead of calling a police car now, she calls the Mystery Inc. gang and the Mystery Machine pulls up, and that's what takes the bad guys away. The ability is the exact same. It's just that the physical look of it is different. I think that's cool. I didn't really understand the cop car in the beginning. Maybe I'm not remembering something from the show, but I don't think that they ever like Velma called a cop car to come take somebody away. It was, I don't know. The Mystery Machine's much more iconic. Her air up special doesn't apply weaken stacks anymore. Dope. Her speech bubbles don't heal allies anymore. Dope. I never really played 2v2s, but whatever. And then her movement speed is reduced by 100, which is cool. I didn't think Velma should have been that fast anyway, but this isn't a huge change, but it's definitely going to be like something noticeable in a lot of scenarios. I like the Velma nerfs. I don't think Velma's like obscenely OP. Again, this might be because of my perspective as a 1v1 player, but Velma was never like game-breakingly OP, so I'm fine with just like some minor nerfs. And then Wonder Woman receiving the exact nerfs that I thought she should receive. Nothing about Wonder Woman's attacks or combos or any of that is OP. I don't really know where that like perspective is coming from when people say that she's OP, but her movement speed and her weight have both been nerfed, which is awesome. And these are pretty significant. The movement speed's not. That's kind of irrelevant. It's just like, I don't know. This isn't really going to be noticeable at all. If you loaded up the game right now and you had no idea that she'd been nerfed, you wouldn't feel the movement speed difference. But the weight, you definitely would. A 5 weight increase is good. So that's all the balance changes. I think that these are incredible. Definitely probably the best set of balance changes that we've received so far. I really don't know why they buffed Batman and then reverted Arya. And I also think that he could have used with a weight buff. I agree with you guys on this one. All the Batman mans out there. I agree he shouldn't be getting killed that easily. He was like way too light. Batman should be a more heavy character. So I think, in my opinion, Batman should have received a very significant weight increase, like a 10 weight increase or something. But they also should have nerfed his movement speed because there's no reason that Batman is faster than like Arya and Harley, who are the lightest characters in the game. That's all for today. I'm posting a video later today on Gizmo, and then 2 more videos tomorrow. So 4 uploads in the next 48 hours. That's pretty cool. Subscribe if you want to see them. And yeah, see you guys later.